Start here locally. Today, a nonprofit law firm launched in Charlotte focused on restoring rights for people who have been in prison. Organizers say recent attempts to limit voting rights make this even more important. WCNC Charlotte's Julie Kay joins us now. Talking about this nonprofit, this is a new nonprofit. The timing of it is interesting because, again, we are just months away from a big midterm election.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been in here repeatedly talking about voter rights in general, whether it be at the North Carolina level or federal level. But this nonprofit law firm is really interesting because they do all sorts of things, specifically, like you said, for people who have been incarcerated before or have prior felony convictions. But there's also an advocacy piece to that. So just the concrete things that they do here in Charlotte and, beyond in the Carolinas. They'll help people who, are just recently out of prison, get their driver's license again, help legal advocacy to help them reduce fees and fines that we'll get to in a bit because they talk about that being one of the barriers to voting. And then, of course, helping them get re-registered to vote, make sure people know how to do that once they're through everything. In North Carolina, you can't do that until you finish your parole, probation and those fines that I talked about,
which a lot of people don't know.
Right. So that's one of those otherly financial barriers that we talk about when we say, voting barriers. And so they work to, help people limit those fines, help people know what they need to do. But overall, that kind of advocacy piece I was talking about was, I spoke with the organizer who's, formerly incarcerated himself and said, I think we should get rid of those fines because it causes, X, Y, and Z. You're missing, with 19 million people with former felony convictions in the U.S., if not everyone is able to vote after that, that's a huge chunk of people that you're missing their voices, which, people that are directly impacted by the system would have some very valid opinions is, kind of his whole thing here. So it was really interesting to talk about the timing of it, the reasoning, it being, here in Charlotte, North Carolina, having a history with some of these things. And so it was really, really interesting, especially to talk to someone who has been through the justice system himself.
Yeah. In Alabama, right?
In Alabama, and then went to law school afterwards, and has been practicing as a lawyer in Charlotte for the last 18 years. So really, really just interesting story too, interesting person, and really cool to see him turn this into advocacy after the fact.
One interesting stat that you put in your story, and it just kind of blew my mind. 19 million people in the U.S. have prior felony convictions. If it was a state, it would be our 5th largest state in the country. Wow.
Imagine the voting power.
Yeah,
of that many people, but also just how many people something like this impacts. I mean, I don't have that statistic of how many people struggle to pay their fines afterwards, but I imagine that's not typically first priority when you get out of jail for however many years you were in there. I know his experience, it was close to 4. And so you've got to, go get a job and finish other things too before you're able to pay off those fines. And so it's just a really interesting story, really interesting to see it here in Charlotte. And we talk a lot about nonprofits in general that are, seeking solutions is the brand that we use, but also a nonprofit law firm in particular, I thought was really interesting to have, both that advocacy side and the actual tangible, concrete help that they can offer people.
And a lot of times I saw that a lot in Raleigh, right?
Yeah,
because that's where the lawmakers are, right? And that's the capital. But in Charlotte, unique to see here in Charlotte.
Absolutely.
All right, Julie Kay, when can folks check out your story?
6:15.
6:15, Julie Kay covering all things politics. This is politics adjacent.
Kind of politics.
There you go. Yeah. Julie, thank you for coming here in studio. We'll check back in with you later.
Thank you.